protest the death of 2 workers at BART and to say that there is criminal liability, that in fact the BART Board of Directors and managers and executives at BART were aware that there were health and safety problems. They had been cited by Cal OSHA 2 years ago with the death of James Strickland when he was killed in the same area because of faulty and bad health and safety conditions. And we feel that the public is ill-served when you have managers and executives putting untrained workers in a situation where they cause a deadly injury. So we are saying that there needs to be a criminal investigation. We think that the BART Board of Directors are personally responsible. They never asked the manager, Kruniken, about this situation of bringing in replacement workers to train. And also the unions have said that this is a health and safety issue to begin with. The fact that they've been running trains at 70 miles an hour when people are on the tracks working without proper warning is inexcusable. The National Transportation Safety Board has now said that this is wrong, this is deadly. These people knew about it. We're also saying, how is it possible that BART, which is a public agency, I pay for it, other people pay for this agency, has spent over $300,000 in attorney fees fighting a Cal OSHA determination citation that these are illegal practices, these are dangerous practices. Why would any agency fight another health and safety agency saying we're going to fight the issue of health and safety? We think this is a threat to the public. We also think that the BART Board of Directors has to be held responsible. They are now saying, Radolovich, the chair, that he didn't know about this. This is a big surprise. Well, the fact of the matter is, at a previous BART meeting, BART workers have said you would have blood on your hands. That as a result of doing this, you would have injuries, you would have deaths. It's a very dangerous situation. They ignored it, and to the detriment of these workers who were killed. These replacement workers. So we're saying enough is enough. They have to take responsibility. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake. It's a conscious policy that they've done. The other thing that's happened at BART is they've cut back on safety inspectors. Over the last 2-3 years, hundreds of safety inspectors and other people have been cut back at BART. So they're putting the public in jeopardy by the cutback of health and safety inspectors. So UPWA, we believe, United Public Workers for Action, that public workers have to be defended. Whistleblowers have to be defended. BART workers who have been whistleblowers have been retaliated against, have been fired. We also ask that George Figueroa, who was a strike leader, was framed up. He was put in jail by BART, and he's fighting a charge of filing a false complaint about what was happening at the BART station. George Figueroa now faces trial. We're saying that these people really should face trial. George Figueroa should get his job back with full back pay, and also they need to apologize to George Figueroa, this ATU 1555 member. But I think this is the kind of double standard that is going on at BART, and not just BART, but other agencies. Public workers speak out, they're retaliated, there's bullying. This week is Workplace Bullying Week, by the way, nationally. It's a national week of workplace bullying. Public workers are being bullied who speak out about financial malfeasance, who speak out about problems on the job, and a lot of these public workers want to do a job properly. They are conscientious. They want to save the public money. They want to protect our health and safety. But as a result of speaking out about health and safety issues, about financial malfeasance in San Francisco Samtrans, where there's another situation of financial malfeasance, they themselves become retaliated against. Now we have to say to the public, how can the public expect public employees to be conscientious and do their jobs when they're afraid of being retaliated against if they speak out about health and safety problems? This is an endemic problem. This is a systemic problem, and we're saying enough is enough. The public have to be aware that the people that are running this agency and the managers have no regard for the health and safety of the workers and the public, and they have to be held accountable for what's happened. It's not an accident, it's not a mistake. So, and then we'll have a number of other speakers. Our next speaker is Charles Smith, S-M-I-T-H, and Charles is the former chief steward of AFSCE, East Bay Mud, is on delegate in the Alameda Labor Council. So welcome, Charles.
I'd basically like to say that this, what took place, this tragedy, should never have taken place because management was forewarned in advance in an op-ed piece written by the AFSCE president who represents the AFSCE workers at BART. This editorial, or this op-ed piece, was written on September 23rd. And if you can see the headline, it states very clearly, managers should not be allowed to run trains during the BART strike. The reason being, it's flat out dangerous. And this was totally ignored, yet this op-ed piece predicted precisely what happened. It tells me that this was not an accident. Nobody, the BART managing team, or I should say the BART Board of Directors wanted to push the union, and they didn't care what the dangers would be involved if they trained managers to run these trains. They did, and they killed workers. And I'm going to give you each a copy of this, and that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Our next speaker, is Charles Rackless. He's a health and safety expert in California, and he's also a member of United Public Workers for Action and has been familiar with the serious health and safety problems that we have here in California in public agencies. Welcome, Charles Rackless.
Could you spell your last name for us, please?
R-A-C-H-L-I-S. Thank you very much. I'm a public worker in the state of California, and I'm here to speak out against the murder committed against the scab workers by the BART management. We know this is the first time that happened. We know that James Strickland was killed in a similar accident a number of years ago, and we know now that that they are retracting this rule, which allows for them to blame workers on the tracks for their own lookout. What we really want to look at here, though, is how come this happened? How come we had a strike going on and scabs were allowed to actually walk onto the tracks and get themselves killed? This we have to place directly on the back of management. Picket lines mean do not cross. That means that the union has to have a program that says we're going to put up solid picket lines and not allow anyone to cross. Management disregards the life of the workers by crossing the picket line, by calling on all workers to cross the picket line. Just one scab showed up, but management wanted everyone to scab. This is an issue of the working class standing up and saying, we will not scab because we know management does not regard our lives as important. They are willing to put scabs on the tracks and get them killed. This is not the first time, and it will not be the last time. So labor needs to take a lesson from this, and we call for jailing the management. And who do we think can jail the management? We have no faith in management policing itself. We have no faith in the courts policing themselves. We call for mass meetings of labor. We call for the whole trade union movement to fill up halls, to fill up convention centers, and to turn out the rank and file, and to have a tribunal against management and hold these butchers responsible, and then we will jail them. We will jail them by shutting it down. Now, the last point to remember is Gavin Newsom and company came down and said, this will not happen again. We're putting an end to strikes for all time. This strike might be over today, but the TA has not been signed. The workers are being asked to sign a concessionary contract. There's still money left on the table. You notice after the two BART workers were killed, management was able to kick up another 3% right away, plus a $1,000 signing bonus. Why? Because they wanted this to get off of the headlines. But ultimately, that contract is still a concessionary contract because workers were behind on their cost of living adjustments for over 5 years. The original call for 30% was a reasonable call. That they settled for 15%, they didn't settle yet. The TA still has to be voted on. The 30% was a reasonable call because that covered for the cost of living adjustments. Why does this continue to happen? We see that labor is set back because the leadership of our trade union movement is hand in hand with the Democratic Party. And it's the Democratic Party that tells the trade union movement, shut down your strike. We're going to put a 60-day injunction on you like they just did to the bus drivers. They just did to the BART a month and a half ago. And their job as a Democratic Party is to dismobilize, to demobilize the working class. We could have had this settled back 2 months ago if they hadn't put a 60-day settle on this. We saw that that management was stalling. They paid $400,000 to this union buster hawk from Veolia Company, which privatizes public transits around the country. And Veolia Company sent him in for $400,000 to sit on his hands, take the money, and force a strike. That was what management did. And then they have all of the media out here who are owned and operated by the 1% to tell the working class it's the workers' fault. We point our fingers at management. We point our fingers at the 1%. We point our fingers at Wall Street because they are trying to take away our pensions. They are trying to drive down our wages. They are trying to take away our medical benefits. What management and Wall Street are doing hand in hand with the Democratic Party is trying to destroy the working class's gains since World War II, since Social Security, since we got benefits, holidays, pensions, wages. That's what they're trying to do. Why? Because it's so hard for them to make a profit, because capitalism is in a major crisis. The tendency of the rate of profit to decline is biting the butts of the ruling class. So they have to make the workers pay. We say the way to turn that around is to have mass strikes of labor that shut down everything. General strike, indefinite general strike until we jail all the managers, we get our cost of living adjustments, we make management pay for pensions and for our medical. We have to fight for single payer. Why? Because we know that the Affordable Health Care Act is not affordable. That's a deal that's been pushed on us so that the insurance companies can get their fingers in the pie and keep them there. So we're tying all these issues together. Thank you very much.
Can we talk a little bit about the simple approval and how that played into
Yes,
this?
before I go on, I do want to announce that Larry Hanley, who's the international president of Amalgamated Transit Union, has called for a criminal investigation. So the international president of the ATU has called for a criminal investigation, and we support that. As a first step, there should be a criminal investigation of this incident, because it's not an accident, it's a planned action by the BART board and the managers to allow a lack of health and safety protection for these workers and the public. What was the question?
Okay, it was about the simple approval and how that played into what happened this weekend. If you could just give your opinion on that.
Well, I think what happened was the BART Board of Directors were very intent on forcing the entire contract into binding arbitration, including many issues that they'd already agree on in wages. And my own view is it was a concession contract. I don't believe that they should accept a concession contract. Our view is that, in fact, there should be a transit tax. There's lots of money. The developers and billionaires who own downtown Oakland and downtown San Francisco make money from BART. They should pay for BART. Okay, so what happened was, when the murders took place, what the BART managers did and the board of directors decided that it was bad publicity and they had to come to some kind of agreement. So they made some economic concessions that they hadn't said that they were going to make, and they are trying to get the workers to vote for those. So there was a meeting yesterday of ATU 1555. There'll be other meetings, and the workers will vote on that contract. But it's not a done deal, and the workers can still win everything that they're fighting for. Yes?
No, I was referring to the procedure, basically, that they were out there under the guise of being responsible for their own safety, and how you feel about that policy.
Well, first of all, you know, in this day and age, I mean, let's be honest. We have a satellite curiosity in Mars telling us what's going on in Mars. We don't have the technology to find out when a train is coming. I mean, think about that. In this advanced society in computer areas and all our technology, we don't have the technology to give somebody a handheld device to see when a train's coming? I mean, they do have the equipment, they do have the devices, they are not interested, apparently. Also, there should have been a lookout. There should have been 3 people, 2 people doing the work and 1 person as a lookout. BART management has refused to say that there need to be 3 people, a watch person and the 2 people that do the work. This is not just these BART workers. James Strickland, who was, as mentioned earlier, was killed 2 years ago over the same kind of situation. And BART management lied about this. They said, well, they were examining a hill. Well, that hill has been there, that dip rather, has been there for many years. Hundreds of people have reported a dip. This is not new information. So they knew that there was a dip there. They were basically covering up the fact that they were training people to replace BART, to run the trains without the workers, and as a result of their bad, dangerous, deadly work practices, 2 people were killed in this incident. So that's really what the situation was.
Have you been in contact with the head of ATU at all, and how do they feel about it?
Well, the ATU is very angry. As I said, the international president of the ATU, Larry Hanley, has made a statement calling for criminal investigation of BART management and the managers who were in charge. The other thing is, how can it be that a trainee, not a certified operator, a trainee was operating in that cab by himself? You would think that if you have a trainee in a cab, you would have a certified operator. They had no certified operator in the cab. The other thing is they didn't blow the whistle when they hit. They didn't shut power. They violated procedures, protocol on what happens when you have an accident. You have to blow a whistle, you have to shut down the power, you have to call to shut down the power of the entire system or that area of that system. They did not do that. So there's serious violations of NTSCB, the National Transportation Safety Board, and the procedure to protect the workers on tracks. They violated those. And the other thing we're raising here, why wasn't there a drug test of the operators? Why weren't there drug tests of the operators on that train? We want to know. The NTSCB said they would only interview these people a day and a half after. If this had been a regular BART worker, they are held there and they're required to give a drug test before they leave the area. So this manager, BART management may have, I don't say I have any evidence, but they may have allowed these manager and the trainees to leave without getting a drug test. That in itself is outrageous. That's outrageous, because other workers get drug tests when there's an accident. That's a matter of protocol and a matter of procedure. What's going on here?
Got a question.
Yes.
Even the official investigation is still continuing, so we don't know the official results of the NTSB investigation. My question to you is, even if everything that you're saying is factually true, how do you deal with commuter fatigue that are tired of hearing this back and forth and just want to move on from the entire issue?
Well, my feeling is, first of all, they were sent back to work, they were back and forth and back and forth. That creates commuter fatigue. But the problem is, the BART Board of Directors, who are elected by the public, are not really being held accountable. In other words, the workers wanted to settle. The union leadership, and I don't agree, the union leadership wanted to make concessions. They wanted a compromise agreement. The management had a hard line. We're going to take away your work conditions. We're going to cut your wages. We're going to have cost shift to your health care and pensions. That was the position of management. So basically it was a confrontational provocation. And this guy Hawk, that's the other question. There's a labor relations department in BART. There are labor relations people in BART, the agency. Why would they go outside and pay $400,000 to Thomas B. Hawk of Veolia Transportation Company? Why do they have to go outside the agency to hire somebody when they have a whole labor relations department at BART? We think that's a waste of money. So I think the public should be angry. But it's not the workers' fault. Is it the workers' fault that they were killed on the rails? I say no, because they had been cited by Cal OSHA for previous dangerous working conditions. We're saying it is dangerous working on BART, and the workers have to have health and safety protection. And that is critical to the protection of the workers and the protection of the public. And they've disregarded that. And that's why they've now changed the rules today. It was announced yesterday that they're going to change the rules as far as working on the rails when trains are there. But they have the technology. They could have prevented this. This was a preventable death, or these were preventable deaths that could have been prevented, but did not, because of the management and these executives at BART don't really care.
Should we read into the fact that you don't have other union members out here with you? Are you alone on this island?
We're not alone. There are other
work.
They're at work. A lot of members are at work. The other thing we have to understand, I brought this up about George Figueroa. George Figueroa was a strike coordinator of the first strike. He was a strike coordinator for ATU 1555. He spoke out at a BART board meeting. He was framed up and put in jail, and he's facing charges here in Alameda County. And basically, our view is for speaking up and challenging the BART. There's intimidation, there are threats made against BART workers. Not just BART, other public workers. When workers speak out about health and safety problems, when workers speak out about financial malfeasance in Santrans, where there's another financial scandal, or in Richmond, with the city of Richmond, with the manager there, Leslie Knight, they're retaliated against and fired. Workers, public workers really are in fear of speaking out about their own issues. And that's a sad thing. I've worked with workers who work in unsafe health conditions and they don't speak out.
Can you explain your organization's relationship to the BART unions?
Okay, our organization, United Public Workers for Action, has supported the BART workers unions. We put out educational material and other information, and we're also defending the right to strike. And we also think, as a matter of fact, that this strike is being used as an excuse to say that public worker strike should be banned. And we think that that's a threat to basic human right. Workers have the right to withhold their labor. And we think that that's a basic human right. And we can't talk about Poland and other countries, workers having the rights when they don't have the rights in this country. We don't think banning strikes is going to solve the problem of a management that's intent on violating labor laws, health and safety rights, and other conditions. And that's what's gone. It's a management gone mad. I mean, that's why today you'll hear the BART Board of Directors trying to explain what happened and why it happened. Because they were warned by a BART worker that if they violated the rules, if they tried to train people in these conditions, there would be accidents and injuries. And it's come true. Unfortunately, it's come true that 2 people are dead as a result of the violations of the work rules.
Medical service instructor and also administrator and union officer. So based on that background, I feel like I have unique qualifications and background to express concern regarding the recent killing of 2 BART workers this Saturday, October 19th. In a prepared statement, I have expressed concern over the preventable death of 2 workers during the recent exercise conducted Saturday, October 19th. First, I'd like to encourage transparency regarding the nature of the exercise being conducted. It has been communicated that BART engineer Chris Shepard and contractor Larry Daniels were mortally wounded while BART was conducting training. Alternately, it has been reported that BART was running the train while conducting, quote, routine maintenance run. Currently, there are records which indicate why the train was running. The BART owes the bereaved, the public, transparency on this issue. Secondly, the simple approval procedure must change to think that there is a safety procedure where employees who go on or near tracks assume full responsibility for their own safety to the point that BART will not tell them when trains are coming in order to force them to remain vigilant is incongruent with basic principles of safety and accident prevention. The primary approach to death caused by traumatic injury is prevention. Active safety strategies are recommended to accomplish this. Active safety measures take measures to avoid accidents as opposed to merely reducing their consequences, which passive safety measures employ. Both are necessary, but active safety measures prevent death. In deliberately moving an active safety measure, removing one, BART appears to have been negligent, placing their workers at risk of mortal injury. Had an effective warning system been in place, it is likely that both Chris Shepard and Larry Daniels would be alive today. In addition, it is unconscionable to ask employees to sign over complete responsibility for their own safety when all available safety measures have not been provided for. I believe it is reasonable to request that this board provide an independent review of the factors that led to these deaths and that in the future all safety measures be implemented.